We are in the middle of India versus Australia series, and even though India have managed to retain the Border Gavaskar trophy, but still plenty to play for, at least for the Australian team. They will be playing for a lot of pride. Now, they wouldn't want to be completely whitewashed by the Indian team, or as the term that is often used here, brownwash. They have a chance. Looking at the first two tests, not too many people will give them a chance, but remember, they were in with a slight chance in the Delhi test match. The first innings, in fact, they got a one-run lead. After that, it all went downhill. Now you've had a bit of a gap between the second and the third test. Plenty for the Australian team to contemplate, think about their strategies. And one of the major blunders that they did in the Delhi test match was sweeping, which eventually led them to a lot of weeping, because it was one-way traffic after they came up with a strategy to sweep. That's why these are very interesting numbers, and I'm sure if we are number crunching, so would the Australian camp be. Just looking at the second innings of the Delhi test match, Australian batsmen swept 20 times, and out of those 20 occasions, they had 14 occasions where they did not lose a wicket, and I can't confirm whether all 14 were run scoring opportunities, but at least 14 times is the time that they didn't lose wicket. 6 times they lost wicket out of those 20 sweep shots that they attempted, and that's a big number. That's a majority, and that's a very high ratio of losing wicket to one particular shot. That was also visible to the naked eye, but when you look at just cold data, you realize how much of a risk was involved when Australia were trying to sweep, yet they decided to do that for whatever reason. Look at India on the other hand, less number of shots in the second innings, just 7, but they did not lose a single wicket. So what is it that India did differently, and what is the elementary mistake that the Australian batsmen were making while sweeping? So it's not that sweeping is not a productive shot. We've had many past players from overseas that have employed this sweep shot and got great dividends as well. I mean, Graham Gooch comes to your mind, who did that very effectively. Andy Flower is another one. You had Matthew Hayden do that very successfully in India. But what is the mistake that the Australian team were making? And you just take a look at what Ravindra Jadeja said right after the Delhi test match got over, and that gives you a bit of an insight. He said the way they were batting, they preferred the sweep and reverse sweep. So I wanted to bowl stump to stump. That would mean if they missed and the ball stayed low, then it would hit the stumps. Simple strategy. The mistake that Australia did was fall into the trap that was being set by the Indian bowlers. They didn't have to do anything. Australians made the mistake. So what did he do? He knew that they're going to be sweeping, reverse sweeping. All he did was bowl stump to stump. And how is that strategy that works is something that we'll illustrate in this video. Take a look at this. These are all dismissals, those 6 that we were talking about that came to sweep shot. This is Steve Smith, you remember. So he's trying to sweep, the ball stays much lower than he's expected. So if it's stump to stump, you're either bowled or you're leg before. Steve Smith is a case in point. After that, I think this was Cummins that happened, or this was Renshaw, one of them. And this is Cummins, and so on and so forth. This is Renshaw. And all other batsmen that fell to the sweep shot. So what is really the problem with the sweep shot? And again, how much Indians knew that conditions much better than the Australian players? Akshar Patel also said after the game got over, and this is Akshar Patel talking like a batsman. He said sweep and reverse sweep are difficult here, so I didn't try them. So that's being a smart batsman. The Indians obviously understood those conditions. You can't really imagine why the Australians did it. And it's no rocket science. If you just saw the way the pitch was behaving, you were left wondering, why would the Australian teams just try and employ such a risky strategy? Let me try and explain a little further. So simple physics at play here. These are your stumps that you need to look after, and what the Australian team was playing when you're trying to play the sweep shot. Every time there is some sort of uneven bounce, and if you do not judge that bounce because it's uneven, then you're either going to get bowled, as you saw in those images that we showed, or it's going to hit your pads and you're caught plumb in front of the wicket. Now, Why were the Australian teams doing it? If you remember, in that test match, once the day's play got over, you saw that even right after the first day, if I'm not mistaken, you saw 2 balls staying very low, very, very low. Now that's an indication. Now if you had done this in the first test match, Nagpur, where still yes, the ball was turning, but still at even bounce, you could still figure out why you're playing the sweep shot, because it works when the bounce is pretty even, because you know that it's going to bounce that much from where it pitches, and then you can just play the sweep shot, trusting the bounce. All you need to do is sort out the line. But what was happening in Delhi, when you saw uneven bounce, you know that you're going to go in or going to play the line of the ball, but as soon as the bounce is a little higher or lower, you're going to be trapped in front of the wicket. Now that's not to say that you cannot play the sweep shot, and we saw Rohit Sharma do that very well. He played the sweep shot. You can play the sweep shot, but you got to be slightly smarter when you do that. Let me just show you what Rohit Sharma did. So take a look at Rohit Sharma. He fetches a 4 of this delivery. The only difference is that even if that ball had to hit his pads, take a closer look at that, he hits a 4. Even if the ball had to hit his pads, it would be outside the line of off stump. So it's telling you a way that you can play. So even if you miss the bounce of it, because it's not even bounce, you're either going to be playing a shot that is pitching outside the leg stump, or then the impact is outside the line of the off stump. So what that tells is that then you can play the shot and not be out leg before wicket, and you're covering your stump. So that is what Rohit Sharma did. So if I'm a batsman and I'm playing on a pitch like Delhi, and I really want to play the sweep shot, so every time it pitches outside the line of the leg stump, I know I can't be leg before, so I'm going to just put my leg out, play a sweep shot, because I know even if I miss the bounce of the ball, I know it's going to hit my pads, you can't be given out. Or if it's bounced outside the line of the off stump, it's pretty wide, and I know that my connection is going to be outside the line of the off stump, even then I'm going to attack and try and play a sweep. So once again, if I miss, it hits my pad and I can't be leg before wicket. And that's what the Indian batsman did, not the Australian batsman. The other thing is, more often than not, if you're not a good sweeper, don't try and do it immediately when you come to India. You should have been a natural while growing up. The best way then to play in India, as you saw with the Indian batsmen, only 7 sweep shots attempted, is just play straight when it's uneven. Why? Because then even if the bounce is uneven, so long as you've sorted the line of the ball, which you can do just with hand-eye coordination, you're going to play it. So higher, lower, it can hit wherever you want, but it's not going to miss and hit your stump or you be out. Yes, the chances of that leg before wicket increases because your bat is vertical, and so then you're not covering that horizontal area, and which is why I think the Australian batsmen, the reason they must have started sweeping is that they got scared from that first test match, where either the ball was coming in or going out, and they didn't know which variation to use. So if they were trying to play the line of the ball because of the vertical bat and less mass there in the vertical bat, they were either getting leg before in the ball coming in or bowled, or then the one that was going out taking their edge. So that may have prompted the Australian batsmen to think, okay, let's reduce the risk of missing the line of the ball, which they were, and then let's try the horizontal shot, which is the sweep shot. Let's keep doing it. But they forgot that there is also a risk there, because this time you're going to miss the bounce of the ball, and that is what happened. Conventional wisdom would still tell you, if the pitch is not even bounce, then you're better off playing with a vertical bat. Yes, you could miss the line, but there's a better chance of you controlling the line than the uneven bounce, because that's completely out of your control. So maybe these are the lessons that the Australian team can take. And who better than Ian Chappell to illustrate exactly what we were trying to show you. He's written a column in which he says the odd player is very good at sweeping and should utilize the shot, and he's talking about the Australian players, but for the majority there are better ways, as we were talking earlier in the video, that maybe vertical bat shots would be better. So he says for the majority there are better ways. Any good spin bowler who makes the ball bounce is likely to expose the dangers in sweeping constantly, and that's exactly what Ravichandran Ashwin does so well. That's exactly what Ravindra Jadeja does so well. So you made their job, anyway it's very tough to face them, but the Australian batsmen made their job slightly more easier, the Indian bowlers, but trying to play the sweep shot. So what is it that the Australian team is going to go for in Indore? I think there is no one set formula. If the bounce is even and turn is what is worrying you, then maybe you could go for a sweep shot, as some batsmen did very well in the first test match. But if there is any uneven bounce that we saw in the second test match, then you're better off not trying to employ the sweep shot at all. What any cricket fan wants right now is a good contest, because we built up to this India versus Australia series saying it will be an even contest, but so far 2.5 days is all it's taken the Indian team to beat the Aussies. Maybe because of that big gap, they have time to look back at their mistakes. What is it that they were doing right? What is it that they did wrong? And maybe we can see a better contest going forward in the next test that's going to be starting in Indore. If you like this video, please give us a like, would mean a lot to us, and we'll try and produce more content like this for you on Sports Today. For the moment, thanks so much for watching.